Yo, 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 it's your boy, Mike K. Smith. Make sure you go like, comment, and subscribe. I got a fun stream today. Everybody's been talking about it all on social media, on X, on Threads, on IG. We've been seeing all of the content, so we might as well talk about the content. Let's talk about the 2024-25 GM survey. And these are always fun because the GMs are supposed to have like the ultimate knowledge in the game of basketball. So that when they make the predictions, you want to listen. Now, I will say that most GMs these days are just accountants, and I do question their basketball kind of like overall feel for the game a lot of times because we know there's a lot of nepotism when it comes to working in the front office, and we know a lot of times it's just about data and it's just about numbers. It's not about people that actually played or really truly know the game of basketball. But that's here nor there. That's my like boomer rant for today. But the 2024-25 GM survey, and we're going to go over all of it. We're going to talk about all of it. We're going to break down and give you opinions on what I believe is either cap, is either, yeah, they got it right, or is either very, very questionable. But this is, once again, a 2024-25 GM survey. It was over 50 questions, 50 questions to be exact, actually, not over 50 questions asked in this survey ahead of the new season. And sometimes when we make predictions or when people make predictions, it's based on a lot of times the data or the information that we receive from the following previous year. I've always been a person who analyzes a game, who always talks about just because something happened last year does not automatically means it's going to happen the following year, or just because a player A had a better regular season or playoffs than player B does not always make them a better basketball player than that person. Basically, I'm trying to say that just because one season happens or even two seasons happens where we have a little data does not automatically means that we should just go into the following season thinking that what we have for the previous year, the following year, is going to be the exact same. And I see that a lot of times when they talk about player comparisons, when people are comparing a player to this player versus their player and based on regular season success or even postseason success, when a lot of times you have to look at a player's resume and you have to look at what they have done. I always like to say in a lens of a college, a lens of 4 years. I think 4 years is a great testament, a great argument to when you're really dissecting and comparing players to you really get a feel on who is having a very great impact for their team in the regular season and the postseason as well. But sometimes as the game is getting a little younger, people are always looking for the next best thing. And when people get hurt or with the suspensions, in Ja Morant's case, because I'm here to tell you, there's a lot of people that doubted Ja Morant. It's a lot of people that have questioned Ja Morant's basketball ability. There's a lot of people that are placing players the past year and a half over Ja Morant that they shouldn't even be in the same discussion, that it shouldn't even be an argument. So that's a lot of times when we see like the GM surveys, a lot of times it's based on the following season and it's based on what have you done for me lately? And sometimes that's how life is looked at a lot of times. But when it comes to basketball and when it comes to certain things, we know that things are situational based. We know that sometimes players have injuries. And we also know that we have to look at a body of work. That's why when Ja Morant was dealing with some of the things that he was dealing with regarding suspension, regarding him getting hurt, I'm hearing some of these players, these point guards, these guards that are mentioned that are better than Ja Morant. And I'm sitting back laughing because real ones know that you're only saying that because Ja Morant is not available. And we know availability matters a lot when we talk about sports, when we talk about just things in general. But at the same time, it's a lot of players that people were saying that were better than Ja Morant, once again, had no business being in the same sentence as him. A player I can mention is Tyrese Halliburton. I heard that he's better than Ja Morant. I've heard that Tyrese Maxey. I love Tyrese, but I don't think he's better than Ja Morant. You know, even a player like a Jalen Brunson. Jalen Brunson has been phenomenal. Jalen Brunson has been a superstar with the New York Knicks, he's not better than Ja Morant. So what happens is when you have these NBA GM surveys and you have people who are analyzing and talk about the game, everything is based on what have you done for me lately? And you have these conversations and people tend to forget about a player's greatness, especially when they're all in the same age range and the same kind of like tiers. You can kind of say for it's like their age group, but at the end of the day, Ja Morant is still Ja Morant, and he's going to remind people this year who the hell he is. And I'm sure he's been on social media. I'm sure he's heard all of and seen all the tweets. I'm sure he's seen all the people that are doubting him. I'm sure he's seen all the disrespect, and he's going to come back for vengeance this upcoming season. So now that we got that out of the way, we're looking at the 2024-25 GM survey. 50 questions ahead of the new regular season. That's what we're talking about. So for his predictions, we know that the Boston Celtics went on a dominant run, a historic run last season, regardless of people want to say, well, they didn't really play any great teams or they didn't really play the team that we expected to make it to the NBA Finals. I really don't want to hear all that because everybody knows in the playoffs, you play who's in front of you first and foremost, and they're not responsible for teams not holding up their end of the bargain. They're not responsible for the Minnesota Timberwolves clapping the Denver Nuggets and the Denver Nuggets not going back to the NBA Finals. That's not the Boston Celtics problem. The Boston Celtics was very dominant from start to finish. They were the most dominant team in the regular season. They were the most dominant team in the postseason. So when we talk about which team will win the 2025 NBA Finals, it's no surprise that a lot of GMs are picking the Boston Celtics to repeat. 83%. Number 2, Oklahoma City, the Thunder, 13%. Number 3, the Dallas Mavericks. So as you look at it, the Boston Celtics got 97% of the votes for first place. I'm sorry, that's for the Eastern Conference. I'm sorry. But for which team will win the 2025 NBA Finals? The Boston Celtics, the Oklahoma City Thunder, the Dallas Mavericks. So those were the top 3. Last year, the Boston Celtics and Denver Nuggets both finished at 33%. So I'm looking at this, and I'm liking what I'm seeing from most GMs saying that the Boston Celtics are probably going to repeat. I can definitely see that happening. I can definitely see the Boston Celtics, even without Kristaps Porzingis, who's probably going to miss and out due to injury until like December. They still have enough firepower. They still have enough players on their team that can keep them afloat, because they were out Porzingis a lot of times in the postseason as well, and they were still able to be successful and to go out and dominate. But 83%, is that a little high? I don't know, because I think that the New York Knicks did get, better with the acquisitions of Karl-Anthony Towns. I think he's going to be a factor. I think they're trying to match that offensive firepower that KP, Kristaps Porzingis, brings for the Boston Celtics, that makes them a more dangerous team than they already are. We know they have Jalen Brunson. They also acquire Mikal Bridges as well. He's going to be a solid player for the New York Knicks. I think they got better. Do I think they got better enough to knock off the Boston Celtics? No, I do not. But I think the team that everybody has to worry about in the Eastern Conference is the Philadelphia Sixers. I think that's because they've also gotten better. They got Paul George, so you could just slide him in there, which is the perfect player that they were missing in their starting lineup and for their team, because they had a guy in Tobias Harris who they were playing like a superstar who wasn't showing up and being a superstar. Now they have Paul George, who people sleep on Paul George and people talk about Paul George isn't this, Paul George isn't that. Paul George has been a number 1 option on a championship caliber team pre-injury with the Indiana Pacers. He went up against a super team against prime LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, and Chris Bosh. He was a factor. He's been an MVP candidate with the Oklahoma City Thunder. He's been one of the best second options in the league with the Los Angeles Clippers, and it helped them, Los Angeles Clippers, reach their first ever Western Conference Finals appearance in NBA history. Now he's going to have an opportunity to be playing that third option role, which he's came out and stated that he's never played with a point guard or a center as good as Tyrese Maxey and Joel Embiid together at the same time. So now he's in the third option role where he can really excel and he's going to get open looks, catch and shoot, still can be a high-level defender at times as well, but he doesn't have the same level of responsibility or pressure that he's had in the past. I think if the Philadelphia Sixers can stay healthy and Joel Embiid can be there and play when it matters the most, I feel like the Philadelphia Sixers can compete against the Boston Celtics, and I feel like they can give them a run for their money in the Eastern Conference. And I think they can possibly even make a run at the NBA Finals if Joel Embiid stays healthy. And I know we always say that each and every year, but I think they have enough. And they got Caleb Martin. They got some pieces that I really like. They re-signed Kelly Oubre. Like, I really like what the Philadelphia Sixers are doing, and they may not be done because there's pieces and moves at the trade line that they can probably pick up as well. Oklahoma City Thunder. They got Alex Caruso. They got Isaiah from the New York Knicks, who was a backup center, and they paid him a decent contract. I think it was a 5-year, $87 million contract. And then they got Alex Caruso for a steal as well. I think that gives them more perimeter defense. I think Isaiah gives them a great center where you can kind of have Chet play the forward position at times. But I don't see the Oklahoma City Thunder being what everybody believes they're going to be. I still think it's too soon. As much as I like SGA, as much as I like Chet Holmgren and Jalen as well, but that's what it's going to rely on, those big three. And the biggest thing, if the Oklahoma City Thunder are going to be serious and going to be an actual contender in the West, it's going to have a lot to do with, does Chet take the leap? Does Chet take the next step? Does Jalen take the next step? If those guys take the next step, then maybe we can have a conversation on them being a serious contender. But for them being on, which team will win the 2025 NBA Finals, them being 13% of GM saying that, I don't really believe that's so. I'm not really moved, to be honest, by that number, because I still think it's other teams out there that are better than them and that I will probably pick over them in a playoff setting. One team is the Denver Nuggets. Like, I know that the Denver Nuggets aren't going to have the same team that they did last year, but they're still going to have Jamal Murray. They're still going to have Aaron Gordon. They're still going to have Nikola Jokic, who is, if you don't think he's the best player in the world, he's no less than 3 overall. Like, they're still going to be that team. And the team that they lost to lost Cat. Even though they acquired Julius Randle and Dante DiVincenzo, I still think that, like, the Oklahoma City Thunder aren't better than the Denver Nuggets. And if in the playoff setting, I would probably rather have the Denver Nuggets over Oklahoma City Thunder, and I would rather have the Dallas Mavericks over Oklahoma City Thunder as well, because I just like knowing that at the end of the day, when you have a team and you're breaking down teams and you look at a situation and you look at the best players on the roster, Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving are better than SGA and Czech or SGA and Jalen, whoever you want to mention. A lot of times in basketball, even though it's a team game, you can win a lot of games when you have the 2 best players in the series, for it's like duo-wise on the same team. And I'm looking at SGA. I love Jalen. I love Czech, but I still think they had to take a leap. And I don't know if they're going to take that leap. So that was a little high for me, 13%. Dallas at 3%. I'm not really mad at that. I respect that. They just went to the finals. But once again, I think people are sleeping on the Denver Nuggets. I think also people are sleeping on the Minnesota Timberwolves because I know they lost Cat, but Naz Reid he can do some similar things that Cat can do on the basketball court. Not saying he's Karl-Anthony Towns or anything, but they still have Julius Randle, who is an all-NBA caliber player who's made the all-NBA team a few times in his tenure with the New York Knicks. I don't know what the lineups are going to look like, but the Minnesota Timberwolves, they did get more. They got tougher. They got 2 players, and they swapped out 1. So it's just kind of like, and they have Naz Reid, who is a cheaper and a younger option that they can pay going forward pairing next to, Anthony Edwards. Then they have a rookie coming out as well, who I think is going to be ready day one, depending on if he's going to get the minutes. You know what I'm saying? If he's going to get the minutes, it's going to be interesting. It's going to definitely be interesting. But I just don't think – I think 17% of people – I think people are too high on the Oklahoma City Thunder and force them, like, reaching the finals. I can see them going to the finals, but I really can't see them – I don't know. It's some team – I can see them being upsetting – being a team that gets upset in the first or second round more likely than going to the NBA Finals. And the rookie I was talking about for the Minnesota Timberwolves is Rob Dillingham. He's special. And if he's getting the minutes and he gets the confidence, he can probably compete for Sixth Man of the Year as a rookie. So, which team will win the 2025 NBA Finals? That was one of the predictions. And then Eastern Conference rankings. They got Boston as number 1, 97%. Voted on first. New York, number 2, 43%. Philadelphia, 50%. Cleveland Cavaliers. Let's look at the total. Boston, 39% of total GMs voted on number 1. Number 2, the New York Knicks. Number 3, the Philadelphia Sixers. Number 4, the Cleveland Cavaliers. Number 5, the Milwaukee Bucks. Number 6, Orlando. Number 7, Indiana. And the rest is like the play-in situation. This is another team that I feel like people are underestimating and sleeping on, and that is the Milwaukee Bucks. I think the Milwaukee Bucks have kind of gone on the radar. I think Giannis Antetokounmpo has gone under the radar, and I think Dame is going to have a bounce-back year. Remember, last year he wasn't working out during the summer because he didn't want to get hurt. He requested a trade, and he was trying to get out of Portland by any means, so he was being very safe. Now, this season, he's coming in back on his normal routine. He's coming in having some level of experience of playing with Giannis Antetokounmpo, and this would be his first full season kind of being in that second option role. So I think he's going to be better in that second option role playing with Giannis Antetokounmpo. I also think he's going to be a little bit more comfortable within the offense, and I also think he is going to be more healthier this year. A lot of people have been sleeping on Damian Lillard as well, and due to him having kind of a bad regular season, due to his standards, I think we're going to see a bounce-back year for Damian Lillard. If they have a bounce-back year and Damian Lillard returns to form of what we're used to seeing, and Giannis is healthy and Giannis is still that two-way dominant player that we know he can be, then Milwaukee can also compete in the East, and they can possibly come out of the East as well. So I'm not really mad at that. I think it's disrespectful, though, because I'm looking at the Eastern Conference rankings from the 2024-25 GM survey. Boston, New York, Philly, Cleveland, Milwaukee, Orlando, Indiana. Where's the Miami Heat? And I think this year we saw Jimmy Butler come into media day, no crazy hairstyle, serious face, showing up in a contract year. I think he's going to be out to prove and have a dominant regular season because Pat Riley's already came out and said that he's tired of the Miami Heat and Jimmy Butler in particular not necessarily taking the regular season seriously, which is why they're in the play-in or having to be this 7 to 8 seed and coming out and playing the top 1 or 2 seeds each and every year, similar to the Los Angeles Lakers with LeBron James and the crew. So I think the Miami Heat and the GM's not ranking them in the top 7. I think this year we're going to see the Miami Heat be at least a 6 seed because I think they're going to prioritize the regular season a little bit more than they have done in the past. I think Tyler Hero, this is the year for Tyler Hero to really quiet all the noise. He's added more muscle and things of that nature. And Jimmy Butler's coming in a contract year. You know, he wants another bag before he retires. I think this is a season where they put things together and have at least a top 6 seed in the regular season. Now, I'm not really mad at the rest of that standings for Boston, New York, Philly, Cleveland, Milwaukee, Orlando, Indiana. Western Conference rankings: Oklahoma City, number 1, Minnesota, number 2, Denver, number 3, Dallas, number 4, Phoenix, number 5, Memphis, number 6, New Orleans, number 7, Golden State, number 8. Rest of the teams they're expecting me in the play-in. Okay. I think Oklahoma City, yeah, I'm not really mad at it. Nothing I'm really seeing that I'm really mad at it, to be honest. The West is going to be a dogfight. Similar to what I said about the Miami Heat, I think the Los Angeles Lakers have to take the regular season more seriously. I think they have to get off, to a fast start. I think they have to compete at a high level. And I think this year, I think they're going to take the regular season more seriously as well, even though it's going to be a dogfight. But I think they're going to get a top 6 seed this year. And I don't have a lot of faith in New Orleans Pelicans because even though they acquired Deontay Murray, I just don't like their matchups. I think they have too many guys that, even though they can get after it defensively, I just think they have too many guys that all need the ball, and it's not going to work. It's not going to be a great unit for its chemistry because they got a lot of guys that do a lot of similar things. And I don't know. I just don't really think the New Orleans Pelicans are going to be a top 7 seed this year. I think they're going to fall off. I don't trust the Golden State Warriors. I think their average height is 6'7" for their starting lineup. They didn't get better in my eyes. They got Buddy Hill. They made some other pieces and moves and acquisitions. They lost Klay Thompson's, but they tried to go out and land a big fish. They did not land a big fish because I guess they felt like those big fishes weren't going to lead them to a championship and trying to get Paul George and Laurie Marketing. But maybe Kuminga takes the leap, takes the next step. I think Andrew Wiggins, he's been dealing with a lot of family situations in the past couple of years. We know what happened in his personal life. Hope he gets through that. I think he's going to be more focused and retooled this upcoming year. But I don't see the Golden State Warriors. HC, I don't know. I just don't know. I think the Memphis Grizzlies are going to shock a lot of people. A couple of years, Memphis Grizzlies was at the top of the seedings. I think they're going to really shock a lot of people. I came out. I had my soliloquy on Ja Morant, talking about I think people have been disrespecting Ja Morant. I think the Memphis Grizzlies are going to shock a lot of people. I think Zach, their rookie first-round pick, is going to be a sleeper for this upcoming season as well. And a lot of people overthought what he can be in the NBA. So then you got Phoenix. I still got to figure out what, I think Bradley Beal should move to the bench probably. I think they got too many cooks in the kitchen. 5th seed, Dallas, 4th seed, Denver. I don't know about this this potential GM Western Conference rankings because the rankings are so damn tough, and it's going to be so damn hard in the Western Conference. So I'm not really mad at it, but it's very hard to predict. Who will be the 2024-25 Kia MVP? All right. 40% say SGA. And my thing about that is if SGA didn't win last year, because I really truly thought he was deserving to win the MVP last year. If he lost the MVP last year, I don't know what he can do this year to really get that. And that's just me keeping 100%. Led the league in scoring, was was on the All NBA team, was a player that his team was in the play-in the last situation. He led their team to a top seeding in the Western Conference. I mean, I don't know what he can do any more than he did last year to really win him the MVP, and he lost last year. You see what I'm saying? And that was kind of very questionable in my eyes, in my opinions, because he had the story, he had the numbers, he had the statistic, he was playing defense as well for us, getting out of the pass lanes in with steals and things of that nature. I think people overrate his perimeter defense at times, but he was really, really a bucket getter, a superstar, a true definition of a calm hooper, and he didn't win last year. He lost to Nikola Jokic. Then Luka Doncic. I think that Luka Doncic, 30% of GMs feel like he's going to win the MVP. I think this could be his year. And the reason why I think this could be this year, because Luka Doncic was averaging 28, 8, and 8 Now he has Klay Thompson, who is going to really benefit for playing next to Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving because of their shot creation ability. He has those two players. Luka Doncic was already averaging 8 assists. I think with the addition of Klay Thompson, he gives them a legitimate third option to score the basketball. And Klay Thompson is really going to find a lot of open shots because the defense are going to be locked in and glued in on Luka Doncic and also Kyrie Irving. I think Luka Doncic is going to win the MVP this year. I also think Luka Doncic is going to average a 30-point 10 and 10 triple double this upcoming season. It wouldn't shock me if Luka Doncic averaged anywhere between 30 to 35, 10 assists, 10 rebounds this year and wins his first MVP. I think with that, the acquisition of Klay Thompson is going to help him because you can't sag off of Klay Thompson. And I also think that the Dallas Mavericks are going to be better just coming off and having that experience of going to the finals last year and kind of finally Luka Doncic finally breaking through. I think that Luka Doncic is going to win the MVP. So 30% of GM saying that, I actually am in agreement of that, and I think he's going to win that. Joel Embiid, 7, tied for third, 7%. Nikola Jokic, 7%. Jason Tatum, 7%. So, for Jason Tatum, I think Jason Tatum, it depends on the mentality Jason Tatum comes into the season with. Because the year where he had his best statistical season in the NBA, they didn't give him the MVP because they said the best player on the best team didn't matter. So it's just like you never know what narratives that the media is going to use or try to enforce to who they want to give the MVP to. That's always a big thing when we talk about the MVP because sometimes we don't know what narrative is going to be used. Sometimes it's about the record. Sometimes it's about statistics. Sometimes it's about, your teammates were hurt and injured, but you still led your team to a top 6 seed or top 5 seed. Sometimes it depends on the conference. It depends on individual accolades. You never know what the MVP is going to be about. So for Jason Tatum, he's on the best team in the NBA. So in order for him to really win the MVP, he has to really produce and really make his claim as the best player, not just on the Boston Celtics, but the best player, a top 3 player in the world this regular season. He has to go out and have big games. He has to go out and have big scoring nights. He has to go out and show that the jumper woes and concerns were a fluke. He's back to being a elite 3-level scorer and elite 3-way, 2-way player. That's what he has to do and showcase. Can he do it? Yes. Will he do it? I do not know. I think the humbling experience that he went through in the Olympics is going to be something to motivate him. I think that's going to make him more hungrier. He's only 26 years old. You still ain't seen the best version of him yet. He's entering his prime this year. And he's already an NBA champion and probably, if not the best small forward in the world, top 3 easily. Top 10 player in the game right now. I think he's in that 7 to 10 range. And when he's on, he's locked in, he can be as high as top 5. So I think he has to have that chip on his shoulder and to come out and dominate and come out and have something to prove, even though he's coming off a championship. So can he do it? Yes. Will he do it? I do not know. But I like that. I think he's going to have a chip on his shoulder, and I think he's going to be out for blood and for revenge. A person that they're sleeping on, who I feel like can win the 2024-25 Kia MVP award, depends on what the media are going to like or what the media are going to do or what narrative the media is going to try to push. Because what if the Memphis Grizzlies be the number 1 seed in the Western Conference? What if Ja Morant is back showing why he's the best point guard in the world? What if he's dominating? What if he is really the athleticism, his shooting ability is improved? What if he's really on a tear? Do you give him the MVP award? Because that potentially can happen. So I think that's my sleeper for the MVP award. But once again, will the media give it to Ja Morant over some of these guys that I mentioned? Who knows? If you were starting a franchise and could sign any player in the NBA, who would it be? 77% said Victor Wembanyama. I'm with that. SGA had 10%. Nikola Jokic had 10%. Luka Doncic had 3%. I mean, everybody's going to pick Victor Wembanyama. That makes sense. He's a generational type of talent, so I'm not really going to spend too much time on that. Which player forces opponents' coaches to make the most adjustments? Luka Doncic was 33%. Stephen Curry was 30%. Nikola Jokic was 23%. Giannis Antetokounmpo was 7%. Joel Embiid was 7%. Last year, Stephen Curry was 40%. Stephen Curry's getting a little older. That's why he's probably not still on this list. But Stephen Curry, when you have to play against Stephen Curry, you have to factor in his gravity for his off the ball ability, then on the ball ability. You have to really have all eyes locked in on him, and he's a threat to be a 4-level scorer. Luka Doncic, for us, like making the most adjustments, Luka Doncic is a certified bucket. He's going to get his regardless of what defense, what coverage, if you're blitzing, whatever you see, he's still going to get his points and have a contribution. Also, he holds the ball very, very long. Before it's like the most adjustments. I look at Luka Doncic, high value, high player, usage rating, but I still think the most player you have to make the most adjustments is Nikola Jokic. I think Nikola Jokic is the toughest cover probably in the NBA because he's so unselfish. He can score in a variety of ways. He's the best offensive play or set is him scoring in the post. He's so dominant, and his overall feel and basketball IQ is just so extremely high and gifted. So if I'm which player forces opposing coaches to make the most adjustments, I think it's Nikola Jokic. And I also believe that Giannis Antetokounmpo tied for 7%. I believe that's a little bit too high. I don't think Giannis should be on the list with some of these guys like Joel Embiid or Stephen Curry because he's the most raw offensively compared to all of these guys in the group. So for his like adjustments, yeah, he's unstoppable. He's hard to guard and defend. He's going to get his 30 and 10 pistoling in. But at the same time, in the playoffs, he has been more of a liability than these guys because his jumper is still not a threat. It's still a leak in his game. Before it's the hardest cover in the NBA right now, and for it's like making adjustments, if you're the opposing coaches, I think Nikola Jokic is still the hardest cover in the league by far. A 3-level point center is something we never seen before in the history of the NBA. Never. So, which player is most likely to have a breakout season in 2024-25? Jalen Williams, Oklahoma City. Evan Mobley's tied for number 2nd. Ja Morant, number 10% as well. Victor Wembanyama, 10%. Paolo from Orlando. Cade Cunningham, 7%. Brandon Miller, Charlotte, 7%. I'm going to say, and this is a tricky question because breakout season, what does that even mean? When I think of breakout season, I think of a player that really comes to fold and nobody was really talking about and becomes a all-star or has a breakout season where they're leading the league or close to leading the league in scoring. So I'm going to say I'm not going to mention none of these guys because all these guys were extremely talented, extremely gifted, and people kind of already expect. But I'm going to say Cam Thomas. Cam Thomas, don't be surprised if Cam Thomas averages 25 to 27 points this year because he's going to have the volume of shots. He's going to have the high usage rating. And now it seems like we're finally off the Brooklyn Nets front office kind of hating on him. Like he wasn't starting for most part of the year last year, and they didn't want him to start. Then he was starting, and he was their best player on their team, even though they voted Mikal Bridges as their best player. Mikal Bridges had a down year. Like Cam Thomas is probably going to have a breakout year with the Brooklyn Nets. Now they probably will be sorry, but I think he's going to have a breakout year. So if I had to pick, I'll pick Cam Thomas. Who's the best point guard in the NBA? And I think we'll go over let's go over it now. Who's the best point guard in the NBA? Luka Doncic, SGA, Stephen Curry, Jalen Brunson. Last year was 63% Stephen Curry. Now it's 37% Luka Doncic for his GMs. Now, these are based on the traditional positions because if I'm being honest, Luka Doncic is not really a point guard. He has the ball in his hands. He's dictating. He's running the show. He's, holding the ball very long and he's trying to make a play for himself or for others. But I don't think he's a point guard. I consider him a dual forward, a player similar to LeBron, a player similar to Giannis Antetokounmpo, a forward that runs the show, that has a high level of responsibility for his rebounding, passing, also scoring, and normally defense. But that doesn't include Luka Doncic in this group when we talk about like that level of a dual forward. So who's the best point guard in the NBA? I don't consider Luka Doncic a point guard. I really don't consider SGA a point guard. I think SGA is more of a hybrid as well. Stephen Curry is more of a hybrid. Jalen Brunson, now that's a point guard, I would say, more so if you're basing things on traditional than those other three. But who the best point guard in the NBA? If I'm basing on what I believe a true point guard is, facilitating, running sets, playmaking ability, pass first mentality, making his teammates better, I would say that would be Trae Young. But based on like this list, when we're comparing on the traditional positions, even I don't believe that none of these guys are really point guards. I'm still rolling with Stephen Curry. I know Stephen Curry's 36, but I'm still rolling with Stephen Curry. I think Stephen Curry is still a top 5 player in this game. Top 3, really. Is he going to be able to showcase that? Probably not, because I don't think his team is going to be good. But I still think it's Stephen Curry. Who's the best shooting guard in the NBA? Anthony Edwards, Devin Booker, SGA is on this list. That's what I'm saying. There's a lot of confusion. We talk about traditional positions. SGA's on this list, and he was on the point guard list. Stephen Curry is on this list, but he was on the point guard list. Luka Doncic is on this list, but he was on a point guard list. But I think it's Anthony Edwards. I still think Devin Booker is the most complete shooting guard in the game. But Devin Booker's playoff struggles has kind of allowed Anthony Edwards to kind of come into the fold and really showcase like he's here, he's arrived. So I think you got to go with Anthony Edwards. But Devin Booker is very complete, and also he doesn't get the respect he deserves on the defensive level because he really can get after, especially and can guard. And we saw that with the Team USA. We saw that in the regular season as well, when I think percentage-wise he was like the best for us. I had the best defensive rating for as a shooting guard. So I'm going to roll with Anthony Edwards, but it's still close with Devin Booker. Who's the best small forward? Jason Tatum, 47%. Luka Doncic, 17%. So Luka Doncic is on point guard, shooting guard, and small forward. So that lets me know that like it's a lot of confusion on what his actual position is. Kevin Durant, 70%, 17%. LeBron James, 17%. So we got basically 3 players tied for the second. And we got Jaylen Brown, 3%. So small forward. I think it's between Jason Tatum. I think it's between because we can't. Jason Tatum's been a first team All NBA member the past 2 seasons. We can't his what he's done in the regular season, what he's done in the postseason. I know people like to pretend like Jason Tatum is not a great postseason player, but Jason Tatum has been leading the Boston Celtics in the postseason into deep in playoff runs, having big games and big moments and making big shots and coming down back from 3-2, dropping 40, dropping 50. I know people tend to forget about that because they have a lot of narratives that they want to push, but Jason Tatum, I think he is still the best small forward in the game. I think LeBron James, when he wants to be, he still can. I don't think he can do it on a nightly basis on the long 82-game regular season. Also with Kevin Durant, I don't think he can do it on a nightly basis in a long 82-game regular season as well. But I still think I got to roll with Jason Tatum. Who's the best power forward in the NBA? Giannis Antetokounmpo, 77%. Kevin Durant, 7%. Also receiving votes, Anthony Davis, Draymond Green, Sabonis, Jason Tatum. Yes, Giannis. I think Giannis is the best small forward, power forward in the game. I still think he's a dual forward. But I think he's the best power forward. I don't think we have to spend too much time with that. Who's the best center in the league? Nikola Jokic, Joel Embiid, Victor Wembanyama is on the list as well. But I still think you got to give it to Nikola Jokic because Nikola Jokic has a championship. He has multiple MVPs. I think Joel Embiid is probably more talented and even more skilled than Nikola Jokic. But at the same time, that doesn't mean just because you're more talented and more skilled doesn't make you the better overall player. So I had to roll with Nikola Jokic, and also in the playoffs, I've seen Nikola Jokic reach levels that Joel Embiid have not reached. Maybe it's due to health. Maybe it's due to overall just not showing up when it's time to show up. But I think you got to roll with Nikola Jokic. So, yeah. But I really appreciate y'all locking in. It's your boy, Mark K. Smith. Make sure you go like, comment, and subscribe. I'm gone, man. Peace.